Okay, under our legislative update, I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on that, and I've got a bit of uh, comment on that, but bottom line is, what we were hoping to get accomplished legislatively, we didn't. We did not get a lot of the items or the items that we had on our legislative agenda. One of the big ones, and just speaking from memory here, is this whole idea of how do we answer the stakeholders that come to the RMA that are asking for, expansion of the overweight corridors. That was part of our ask. How do we, you've got great businesses more every day all around us, and they're trying to move their products and services on our roadways. If in fact they're legally permitted on an overweight truck, we sure don't want them where it's our general public and you and I are traveling. We'd rather have them on a specified corridor that's designated as an overweight corridor. It makes all the sense in the world that we should have them and more of them to meet all of the growing needs out there in our community. However, frankly, and I think it's important that we understand, particularly since we all know here that some of the funding to the RNA comes from the overweight dump fees that are issued to be able to travel on the overweight corridor. So this is, and we've seen that decrease over the last several months. And so we know, and making sure everybody's up to speed and we understand that, yes, part of our legislative agenda and part of what we're trying to accomplish up there in Austin is to, enhance these overweight corridors, to add to the overweight corridor where appropriate, working with our local, whether it be a county precinct or whether it be a city, etc. And that's very necessary. The issue has become, frankly, that's become, don't talk about overweight corridors right now. It's to some degree a four-letter word, if you will, up at the state level, because there are a great deal of issues with illicit activity on our overweight corridors. And so the state, rightfully so, is trying to crack down on that. And they're monitoring the overweight corridors, much, much more carefully than they did in the past. I think that's a good thing. But it's had this ripple effect that, certainly we don't want any illicit activity going on anywhere in our communities. But even the legitimate businesses and industries that are moving up and down at growing produce business, et cetera, that use these corridors, they're being impacted. They too are being, monitored and stopped, et cetera. And so the overall climate is making it such that it's having an impact all the way down here to us. So that legislative agenda is specifically the overweight corridor topic and the items related to that. So we're not making any headway now. The goal and the hope is that at the state level, we'll find solutions. A great deal of it, and you'd probably read about it in the paper or you're up to speed, but if you're not, a whole lot of it has to do with fuel transports. And fuel transports, there's some not good activity surrounding fuel transport at times. Certainly not all, but some that on the one hand may not be getting the taxes to the state that need to be getting to the state, and on the other hand, if in fact, which many of them do, they end up at the border and they're crossing the border, there's some of those dollars are ending up in cartels, if you will. That's the illicitness or the illegalities that are being prompting the issues. And so just bringing everybody up to speed on what's happening there. I know, and I had a note, but helping people out as far as our legislative agenda, what other item did we have that I wanted that we should point out?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there was 3 items that the board authorized for our legislative agenda for this last session. One was expanding the overweight corridors to off-system roadways. In other words, right now we're authorized to create corridors on what's called on the state highway system, Farm Departure Road, State Highway, Spur, State U, roads that are designated by the state of Texas can be overweight corridors. What we're asking for was authorization to expand it to off-system roadways, Highline, Anaya, Dauphine, that are local roads that are maintained by the city or the county. The other item was that we asked for a permit fee increase. The last time we increased the permit fee was in 2017, and it went into effect 2018. So we haven't had a fee increase in quite a while, and the cost to maintain the roadways is going up. And then the last item we asked for was authored under the current statute, the scales to weigh the trucks have to be scales that are regulated by the Texas Department of Agriculture in Texas, or an agency called Profecto in Mexico, which is the equivalent on the Mexican side. And so there are state agencies on the United States side that maintain scales that are not regulated by Texas Department of Agriculture, and they have their own certification systems and to make sure their scales are in compliance. And we were asking to be allowed to use those scales also. None of the items that I described made the, some of them made it to committee, some of them made it through one on the with one side on the House or the Senate, but none of them made it all the way through. And primarily for the reasons that the chairman described. Well, the big issue out there with overweight limits right now is fuel, and the issues that combined.
Good. So that's the report on the legislative agenda. There was one other item, part of our agenda, if I'm remembering correctly, which had to do with appointments to the RMA. Not only Hidalgo County RMA, but other RMAs in the state run into some of the issues that we have run into here, where, a little bit smaller community, the people that are willing to give back and raise their hand and lean forward and serve have the capacity that, when my fellow directors and myself are serving here, we run into these issues with conflicts of interest. We were asking for that to be looked at as well. And I think that is going through the process. Didn't get it done right during this session, but where are we on it?
So it didn't make it through the legislature, but TxDOT is going to look at it through their rulemaking authority in the Texas Administrative Code to see if they can tweak with that requirement. Because not only is our RMA, but there's, I believe, 12 RMAs in the state of Texas, and they're all having a similar issue with their appointments. And so they're going to look at seeing what they can do to treat that requirement to make it a little bit easier, so appoint board members.
Yeah, and we're certainly supportive of that and are seeking that, and we put it down as an item. Anybody that, history here where there may have been a conflict or something has come up where we raise them, never has had, to my knowledge, anything to do with anything about any personal individual. We're just following the rules and the policies that we have in the bylaws and the books. And of course, that's what we're here. That's what we have to do. And so trying to get that looked at. That was the other item on the legislative update. That would be 2 items I had into the chairman's report, and that's all I have. So then we'll move on to item. Yes, sir.
To some of these things that you were mentioning on this. You having a little experience in working with some cities. When you go before and asking for money, you need to be prepared and you make sure that you have one legislator, have one and two follow regulations so that these projects will move forward. And I think that's very important on our part. But listening to the legislative updates on it, we only have a lobbyist. Do we have people that go and testify now that we've got unification of different cities and MPOs and whatnot? Is that done?
So yes, sir. I've not personally been up to testify as the core committee. This session we were not asked to testify. So,
because again, experience has been that if you've got enough people on here, and sometimes there can be, maybe there is some issues that some people in Austin are not aware of, but if the locals are not speaking, then these things are coming up from Austin and not really from this area. So I think that we need to be prepared on our next legislative session as a team of FDO, county, whatever it is on it, and make sure that we're well prepared and many of us go and testify so that we can be heard. Otherwise, someone else is telling their story. And the problem is that when someone else is telling their story, they're probably not right.
I think those are great comments, Director Ochoa. I came to learn what an education, and I'm learning every day. I'm smiling as I say it, I'm enjoying it along the way. But they have in this transportation jargon, rules, regulations, etc. They have, I think it's called fiscally constrained. Of course, the first time I hear fiscally constrained, to me, that's a bad thing, because if you're fiscally constrained, to me, we've got a problem to be constrained. Well, in transportation lingo, fiscally constrained is what you're looking for. You need to be fiscally constrained. I guess, put your head on just right, look at it properly. It's the project has the funds to bring it to fruition. Am I saying that right, Steph?
Sure.
And so if you're fiscally constrained, then you can get the project done, and you have to show that. You have to prove that. But then you got to set out and go out there and actually get the project done. A lot of what I think is happening, and I'm so happy you mentioned what you did about, pulling together and getting ourselves together, because frankly, that was a message that I tried to leave at the MPO yesterday. And that is this idea that all of us as stakeholders in Hidalgo County go show up at the MPO and we're making requests over there, but yet the chairman of the RMA or one of our staff members or one of the other cities, they've never even heard of that project. I don't even know what they're talking about. But we're all Hidalgo County. To me, you're absolutely right. I still say Mayor Joe, but you're absolutely right, Director Choa, that getting ourselves together and having a unified voice is certainly what we need. But no need going over there and pulling down any more money if we can't fiscally constrain that project and bring it to fruition. Because otherwise we'll be in the boat that we were in yesterday, where we've got funds that we're going to lose because, and again, I'm going to stress that. I think we all need to, I think I'm saying that right. It certainly makes sense to me. If you're at risk of losing funds because you haven't brought your project to fruition, you haven't made it happen, then not only are we losing, we have the potential to lose those funds, you're also not in a very good position to be going up there in a unified voice and asking for any more funds, because I think they take the position of looking down here and saying, how do you want us to appropriate any more funds that way if you haven't used the funds that you have on the table? But I think, you know what, it really is. It's an education. And I think we are all getting more and more up to speed. I certainly am. I believe our local stakeholders, our mayors, our commissioners. And if we do come with a unified voice, and if we, before we go to the MPO, and this is an open invitation to every last stakeholder in the county of Hidalgo, where we have jurisdiction over it as an RMA, that let's unify our voice. Let's get together. Let's talk. Let's prioritize. Let's get over to the MPO with a plan. And let's agree, oh, you know what? I understand why you as an RMA wanted dollars for segment 4A. I get it. And you know what? That does make more sense than this project, or maybe not. Maybe this is the most important project because we're the ones living in the community and going up and down the roads. We know what needs to be done. So I just think we're going to be much better off, and your comment is very appropriate about working together. And that invitation is a genuine invitation to all stakeholders in the county. The office is here, the staff is here, I am here, and let's bring ourselves together and create that unified voice so we have a stronger and better and more unified seat, not only at the local MPO table, but all the way up to the state, and why not even fed to them, because that's the way this all works. And you're right. If they hear from us and we're all saying the same thing and we're unified, it'd be real hard not to listen. But if we're all going up there and saying me, or I, and you've got a county commissioner saying one thing and a mayor saying another thing and the judge saying another thing and the RMA chair saying another thing, and you're up there and you have to vote, you get a fog that comes over you. But if they get one clear, unified message, we're bound to have a much better shot at making the things happen that they got. But some thanks for the comment.
If I like to have the right information and a good time, when we're going to do support and not just go in there and look like someone else or have someone else speak for us. I think it's good to have a lobbyist, but we also need to understand who our representation is going to be putting forth this particular bill or these asks that we go. As a pulling out the right people doing the asking, there's not no care.
Why don't you go down and bring help to that? I know our names came over and made a presentation 2 or 3 meetings ago during that session. Is there any way possible if you can give us basically just a short version of what transpired and how we can actually prepare ourselves a little bit better? Since he may add some more insight, why didn't we go know from the outside?
Yes, sir. We can ask him to be at the next meeting. I believe by then the special legislative session will be wrapped up and kind of get us insight to anything that they're on the agenda I've seen on the special session. There is one item that may impact us on this.
Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, any other comments on those items? All right, if not, we'll go to item number 2, staff reports.
Chairman, Directors, Ruben Alvarado will give a quick report on program management activity, and Ramon Alvarado will give a quick report on construction activity.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Directors. Ruben Alvarado for the record. I'm going to give you an overview of the permit, the overweight permits, the summary, and some development updates. So, as you know, we have 16 roads on the overweight oversized corridor. For Director Peña, I don't know if you have seen this map. This shows all the corridors that we have on the overweight system. So, just to show you now. For the month of June, from June 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2025, we issued a total of 5,966 permits for a total amount collected of $1,216,282, of which $23,082 were convenience fees, $1,193,200 were the total permit fees, and as you can see, $161,082 went to the RMA. A little bit over $1 million went to TxDOT, and $14,000 went to local offices and roads. Comparing to year 2024, on the next column, we are on a percent change of negative 3.77 on the permits, and on the total amount collected, we're a little bit over because of the convenience fees and the credit card. That's the change between the percentage. So we're seeing a decrease on the permits. As we can see here, we're below 2024 and 2023 with the permits for the month of June. For the yearly overweight report from January 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2025, we have issued a total of 35,006 permits. for a total amount collected of $7,145,584, of which $144,384 were convenience fees, and the permit fees were $7,001,200, from which 5.8 million, and a little bit over 5.8 went to TechDOT, a little bit over 8,000 went to the locals for off-system roads, and then $945,162 went to the RMA. And the percent change from 2025 to 2020, from 2024 to 2025, we see a decrease of 12.53 on the permits issue for the month of for the year 2025, and then 12.63% decrease for the total amount collected.
Yeah, let me make a little quick comment about that. This is what I was reporting earlier about the need for all of us to be aware of what's happening here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if this is 6 months worth, then there's obviously some seasonality to what goes on here. But generally speaking, we're looking at a couple of $1 million annually for overweight permit fees that the RMA uses to do the work that we do here at RMA. And like one of the things we do, of course, is take our dollars that we have and take these permits and pledge them towards a bond. And that's what gives us the dollars and cents to be able to go out there and do a project that we want to do. And so now you can kind of complete the circle, and it's just clear enough for myself even, and I'm getting it. But man, these are important. And overweight corridors are important. So Ruben does a good job in tracking this and reporting this, and it's very important. Go ahead, that's real quick. Ruben, actually,
So this 12% change occurred in April, May, and June. So we've seen that almost 4% that Ruben reported that you saw for June. So this 12% has occurred in the last 3 months. Prior to that, we were tracking comparable to prior years, and then in April we saw the decrease, May we saw a decrease, June we saw a decrease, and we went back and analyzed permits, and it's all fuel. There's no longer seeing permits for fuel. The produce and the other commodities are still on track compared to the historical data, but that is the changes. They are no longer applying to permits or overweight fuel.
and am I correct in saying, Pilar, that historically these permit fees, certainly well before my time, but the history has been an increase year over year?
this chart shows it. So we were very close to 2024 up until April, and then we started seeing that decrease.
And then that is primary, Texas Department of Public Safety has started pretty heavy enforcement on overweight fuel trucks, and so fire see a reduction. We're seeing that.
What do you mean? What do you mean that you see a reduction? Because there's been a lot of enforcement.
So the Texas Department, so most of this fuel is coming out of Cameron County, coming to Hidalgo County, then going back into Mexico. So there's a gap in the overweight corridor, basically from the Hidalgo Cameron County line to the ports in Cameron County. And so those trucks were running the gauntlet. They were getting an overweight permit that was only valid in Hidalgo County, wasn't valid in Cameron County, so they were running the gauntlet, making it to the county line, and then they were legal. So now BPS has started enforcing when they're coming out of the terminals in Cameron County. They're stopping them, citing them, and saying, you've got an overweight permit, but it's not valid in Cameron County, it's only valid in Hidalgo. So now the transporters have stopped taking overweight fuel and taking it to legal weight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not buying it. It's that there's no reason to use it.
Right. So definitely, no sure. So an overweight, just to give you a kind of a scale, order of magnitude, an overweight truck is about 15,000 gallons of fuel. A legal weight is about 8,000 gallons.
This is about one more thing. What is the general consensus of the users in this overweight fuel?
Well, it saves them It saves them. So for every every 2 trucks you take overweight, it's like you 1.5 trucks legal.
So we are not assessing any type of limit on overweight bills.
No,
And so they're doubling up on the weekends. There's just a certain sections that have come.
yes, sir. They can legally, on the permit, overweight permit, they can go up to 125,000 pound gross vehicle weight. Legal in Texas or United States is 80,000 pounds. And typically we see about 90,000 pounds because the average.
So let me see. In our agreement with the state of Texas, the state is the one that has to be the maintenance and inventory. These overweight corridors open.
Yes, sir. Texas Department of Transportation has maintenance and repair, and Texas Department of Public Safety has a portion of it.
Could we only made totally know how much it costs the state and the because of the list on from weeks out of 1 mile to
Yes, and I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it's on the order of about $6 or $7 million a mile. It's pretty high to bring it up to the overweight standard. And so TxDOT has told us that the fee is not enough to cover the wear and tear of the overweight trucks. So
why you doing like there's opponents.
well, they did. TxDOT was supporting the fee increase, but because of issues with the fuel, like there was something that was kind of got caught up in the whole fuel issue.
Do we know how much we actually collect versus how much they actually spend in this?
That number, I don't. I can tell you how much we collected a year. Yes, sir.
But versus how much we pass them through.
That I have to get past TxDOT.
Just go click on the kiss face.
Without a quick question, how much more can this be reduced? Because you're not purchasing any more overweight fuel. That's a 12% decrease. Can it go down another 10%? We still have clients in the past that were purchasing overweight corridor for fuel that still are buying. No one's buying.
No one's buying.
So the month of April, May, June, you didn't receive any purchases for overweight corridor for fuel.
No, sir.
Yeah. How long is that kilo corridor that's actually not overweight between but you can
Bet you get miles. I think it's about a 12 or 15 mile gap.
can be straight as well.
It's pretty long. It's a pretty long gap. And that's where they're getting caught. And that
Yes. Is there any type plan to try to do the point that will record?
so Cameron County has been.
Is it must go over there or must here? It's mostly up there.
We have the RMA and TxDOT have designated the overweight corridor up to the county line, which is that's the statute only uses jurisdiction and can't be coming.
But ours is up to the county.
Ours is longer than
It's like 13 miles to some of the other sides.
some of the county sites. Yeah,
What is the east and west road? Was it
military is the primary route.
Then, just two out, Mr. Chairman. One is that another great example is that these are the type of stories that we may need to take up to Austin, because again, they're talking our story. They have probably no clue as to what really happens. One, and two, is anyone making projections as to how much further we're going to go with this project as far as going down?
So we're pretty sure it's going to hover around the 4% per month, and then we just have to see, when we kind of plateau out. I'm thinking it's going to be probably October, where we'll be back. If you look at the graphs, I don't know whether you bring the graphs back to this.
And the other real quick comment, Mr. Chairman, again, here's a disconnect. Again, from the cities and the valleys, that each one of us are looking just for one particular segment versus trying to see the overall, knowing that this affects everybody.
Exactly, and that's that unified voice, and that's that idea that we all need to understand the issues and work on them together. Because the collateral damage to what's going on right now is that a perfectly legit line company that's setting up shop down the road, one of these big giant warehouses that they're building. I mean, now they're being impacted because they can't get on. And I have only, just in the short number of months I've been here, I've had multiple requests straight to me about the overweight borders. I had one today, as a matter of fact. Mr. Chairman, can we talk to you about the overweight corridor? We need to address this issue. and they're very legitimate. You know, we do not want to stifle the economy. We don't want to stifle industry, legit ones in our community. And so this is very, very important. Frankly, I wanted everybody to be sure we're up to speed. We understand what's going on, and I know we've got a limited staff, and to thank God for the work that they are doing. But frankly, rather than sitting here and allowing this to happen to us and just say, oh, okay, our legislative agenda didn't pass, and well, that's what's happening, and they said that it's the state, is I'm asking the staff, how can we be part of a solution? Is there a solution? Can we be proactive? Can we be creative? I mean, I don't know. There's so many things happening with technology today that I want to think out of the box. I want to dream a little bit, and I want to say, hey, can we geofence an overweight corridor? And then can we put a GPS in every single truck? And we'd be responsible for that, and pilot a program down here where we say, you get off the overweight corridor and it's flagged, it's come up, and it's a cooperative, collaborative program together with the other agencies in the state. So my mind wants to take us that way, but we got a road to build, and our staffs are fairly busy, and we've got other battles we're working on, but this is one that we're going to have to take as well. We can't just let it sit here and say, well, that's what's happening to us. And so, I didn't mean to take up that much time here, but yes, in fact, these criminal organizations, they're exploiting these overweight corridors for their benefit. If you go check it out and read, the number one revenue source, to these criminal entities, these organizations, has become these fees that they're charging. My understanding is 5,000 upwards of 10,000+ per truck that's going over the bridge. And so it's a big problem.
But what does that have to do with all the great corridors? They're going to do it with whatever it made to them, if that's the common. It's something I think we need to discuss this year. Because I think that the mayor's correct in the sense that we don't know the statistics. We don't know the numbers. It seems to me that we build overweight corridors and they're using them. It's easier to catch them than catch them in Timbuktu or so straight up in that whatever. Yeah. And I think what happens is that they're the ones that are using it out there politically, and I think the mayor's right. They're doing it and they're writing the story. The mayor may not be accurate. We're not kidding them out. They're not accurate. But I think that's why I asked you if we can bring our lobbyist or consulting district and give us real specific numbers.
To answer your question, directors, about when we think it'll kind of plateau, if you look at the chart that I have there, the orange is 2023, the blue is 2024. We peak usually somewhere between May and June. That's the peak of our permit issuances. And then after about July, we start to flatten out. And so we think that the fees somewhere will end up, the green is the current fees we're collecting, or the current permit we're issuing. And so we think the permits will flatten out somewhere between the orange and the blue. Maybe next month or the month after that, we'll start to see it back somewhere between 23 and 24 numbers.
Then that's why I asked how many more it could be.
Yeah, I think there'll be a couple of more months of reduction in permit fees, and then we'll see it start to trend somewhere between the 2023 and 2024 numbers. That's our best estimate right now.
Yeah, and our hope is that we can get to a scenario where we get some of this somewhat behind us, if you will, or solved one way or another, so that we can answer our local business community and meet the needs to get the lines to wherever they need to go.